Hi, friends. Happy Monday. Actually, happy Labor Day. I always get Labor Day and Memorial Day mixed up. I'm not sure about you, but for whatever reason, I do. Today, we spent the day at the fair, which was really fun, the Minnesota State Fair. That is a huge complex, and it's actually streets and with addresses. So if you're looking for something in particular, then you can actually find an address for it and then just follow the street signs. So, but there's also maps. It was really fun. Got to get a little bit more of a flavor of Minnesota and some of the funny things that they have, like all the deep fried goodies. But there was a deep fried hot dish, which I'd never heard of before. And I know that they call like a casserole, they call it a hot dish out here. I don't know what a casserole is. Not everybody, anyway. We didn't try it. We weren't that brave. We were also very full from barbecue and cookies and etc. And by the time we came across it, but my guess it's probably tater tots. It was something else in there, maybe mushroom soup and then deep fried. But it was pretty funny. So it was a fun day. And of course, today the weather was really mild. It started at 51 degrees this morning, which was lovely. By the time we got there, it was in the high 60s, but we didn't have any more than like 75, so it was pretty reasonable. So, anyway, with the changing weather, I'm excited to play with the Changing Leaves bundle. It's another bundle that has three pieces to it. And I love showing this watercolor method every year. Um, and I think today is my 52nd. It's probably more than that because I think that there's a couple times I didn't change the number, but I want to say I've been doing 52 YouTube videos that are just for beginner stampers. And this means that anybody could do this. It just takes a little bit of trying it yourself. So I'm going to show you how you can get really gorgeous leaves. So let's take a look at what I'm going to be showing you today. Oops, try to get my keyboard out of the screen. Okay, so this is the card that I'm going to show you today. And isn't that lovely? It's got little gold mercury vellum that I used for some of the enhancements, but that embossing folder is just gorgeous. So this Changing Leaves bundle has these beautiful leaves, these really wonderful sentiments. Now they don't say Happy Thanksgiving or anything, but they've got some really great sentiments that can actually be all year long. So you don't have to do just fall with this. And then it has dies that match these big leaves here. And then it has some sentiment dies and some more leaves. And so, like these little leaves here and these leaves here, and this little sprig. So, these are the dies that go with it. Now, this is the embossing folder, the Changing Leaves hybrid embossing folder. And whenever it's a hybrid, that means that you can actually use the dies along with the embossing folder. So it just easily fits in there. It kind of secures because it's there's grooves for the obviously the embossing, but then it just goes through and you can put your paper in and emboss and die cut at the same time. So it's a really wonderful bundle. Okay, so I created these and with using the watercolor paper, and I've done this before, so I'm just going to do it again because I think it always. Hey, Linda, thanks for joining me. It always does well to do it again. So this is what I'm going to show you how to make, and there's actually two different ways you could do this. Um, but what I did is and these leaves are so pretty, you can easily fussy cut them out too. But these die cuts are going to be wonderful. So I'm going to show you how to create these really luscious looking cards, but we're going to change up the colors just a little. And the reason we're doing that is because I'm actually coming up with a scrapbook page, or actually a layout, multiple layout. I'm just looking at it. I haven't done really much other than print the photos and die cut some of the leaves. But this kind of gives you an idea of what the leaves look like with falls. So last year, my husband and I went to um, it's William O'Brien State Park. We were going north for the changing leaves. We took our dog with us and we went for a walk along one of the trails and found a stream and some other things. So this is just one of the pages that I'm going to make. And this is just kind of a hint of what these leaves look like with the colors. But the reason I'm changing up the colors a little bit is you see the moody mauve in the leaves. And I think that this wild wheat and copper clay are just great colors as well. And then, of course, mossy meadow and old olive are great colors. So those are what we're going to use today. The difference with this one was crushed curry and Cajun craze and blackberry bliss. So you can see the different colors. And this one is going to match more for my scrapbook page. Okay, so there's two different ways that you can die cut these leaves. So one of the ways is, this has already been embossed. Can you see how it's all embossed? So what you can do is just use the die cut. So I embossed it first, and then I can bring the die over and I can cut it out just like so. Now what I did was I used the dies and I placed the stamps in those dies, and then I picked it up so that when I'm stamping it, it fits perfectly where I want it. So like what I did is I stamped a light color first, and then I came back and I did a bunch of coloring. So we'll show you two different ways. So there's a number of different ways that you can play with these. Okay. But this one I can just die cut easily by just lining it up, because I wanted these to line up together. Okay. All right. So the watercolor paper comes 5x7. And so it fits really nicely in these nice wide embossing folders. And of course it fits the dies as well. So in looking at the way that it goes, I want all three leaves to be able to fit on this 5x7. So let's figure out which way works the best. Okay, so I don't want to die cut it yet, because what I want to do is I want to kind of see where the leaves are and how we can play with them. Okay, let me just get this over just a smidge more so I get all of the stem. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I'm trying to make sure that I have all of this leaf and as much of the stem as possible. Okay, so I'm just trying to make sure that it has both of them. So I can put this through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And of course, using the #1 plate and the #4 plate, because this is a 3D embossing folder. Okay, so isn't that gorgeous? Just really, definitely 3D. Just beautiful, beautiful stuff. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my stamp pads and I'm going to start adding color to the leaves. Okay, so the first one I'm going to use is the mossy meadow. And the mossy meadow and the old olive turn out to be really close to the same color. And I'm going to kind of start here And I can fussy cut these out as well, so I know I don't really need to do anything except for these leaves here, but I may want little pieces of leaves for my scrapbook, and so I'm going to go ahead and just use the green on everything. Okay, so then let me just put this aside. Whoops, this was the old olive, or the, okay, mossy meadow. All right, so the old olive is just a lighter green. It's not as dark. They're really close to the same color, but okay. All right, so the next one I'm going to use is the wild wheat because it's a lighter color, and I'm just blending in places. I don't want it to be taking up the entire thing, but it's a great fall color. These are the in colors, just as a reminder. And it doesn't need to be on all of these because we have all these really wonderful colors. Okay, now I'm going to do the copper clay. You can just see this color is just really, really lovely. It's starting to look like a great fall look. All right, and then let's see. The last one I want is, let's see, what color is this? This is not what I want. I need another robber. My movie moth. Okay. So this kind of just, it replaces the Blackberry Bliss for that bright pink that comes out in the card, I mean in the leaves this time of year. Trying to make sure I get all the leaves so that they have some color on them. Okay, so this is the fun part. So you can see that it's like, how did I get it this way? Well, what I'm going to do, let me just get my stamp pads out of the way. Oops, sorry about that. Just smacked. Tell you, I've been struggling with cameras and everything else, and I just got ink all over my fingers. Okay, I'm going to need this. I'll just put it aside. All right, so then I just get a water spritzer. So Stampin' Up! Sells little spritzers. This one has alcohol in it, which I don't want to use, but you can use their Stampin' spritzers, or if you've had one that had hand sanitizer, I just unscrew them, clean them out, and use them for water. Okay, now watch this transformation. I'm going to spray water on this, and you're just going to watch these colors bleed into each other. And they bleed out into the edges, and that's okay. But it makes it so vibrant. I mean, just stunning because of adding the water. So you end up with this really, really pretty color. And so once it dries, then I can easily just run it through the embossing folder, I mean the die cut, and I can get these really beautiful pieces out. Okay. So now the other way you can do this is you just get another piece of watercolor paper. Now the regular cardstock just doesn't work quite as well, and you can use any watercolor paper that you have, but so as a reminder, I set these stamps up so that they would fit perfectly in the dies. So you just put the die down, and then you place your stamps in there, and then you can pick it up with your block. So put the die down, put your stamps, and then you can pick it up that way. Okay, now I'm going to use my lightest color so I don't end up with dark outlines. Okay. And I'm going to stamp this in the, this is the winter wheat or wild wheat, sorry. Okay. All right, so now what I can do is I can, let me get rid of some of this water that's on my work surface. So then I can come back with my daubers and I can add more color in places. Until I get it in the color combinations that I want. Okay. So you just kind of keep adding the colors as you want them. Make sure I'm using the right one. So this is the copper clay. And then I'm going to use the mauve. It just kind of gives you an idea of where you want to stamp, okay? It doesn't necessarily take away from what you were doing, but it just kind of helps you know where to stamp. So this time, because the old olive and the mossy meadow are so much the same, I'm just going to use the mossy meadow. And I can actually fill this whole thing with color and use it to cut out other things. So let me just show you what I had here, because there's not much of it left, just so you can get an idea. So this was another one that I had just added the color all the way out to the edges. But, and you can see that I used every little pit that I could to cut out some of the leaves. So again, you're going to take your water spritzer. Let's see if I can find it. I just had it. What do I do with it? Going crazy. It's empty. Can you see it on my desk anywhere? No? Oh my goodness. I had my water spritzer. I do that? That one's empty. That one's empty. That one has alcohol. There's the lid, but I'm not seeing the water spritzer. Sorry. Well, here's another one. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm just gonna spray the water on it, and you can see how the colors are just popping on this thing as soon as you spray it. And it's okay if it bleeds a little bit, because when you start embossing it and die cutting it out, you're going to end up with a really beautiful pattern. Okay, so this one's already dry, and I'm going to save that one to cut out later. I do think that looking at them side by side, I do like embossing first and adding the color, but you do whatever it is that works for you. And it embosses the rest of the paper. And so this way I'm just, I can die cut it out and then lay it in there and emboss it later. So whatever works for you. But this one's not quite dry, so I'm going to die cut this one. Okay, so I don't want to lose any of the embossing. So I am putting this on here. It looks like a couple of the tips of the leaves are going to come off. So I'm making sure that, let's see. I want this to line up with my embossing that I've already done, and I'm just going to do it again. You can see it just embossed it twice in the same place. And now I have these really gorgeous leaves. And then these I can fussy cut, so you can see how pretty they are. And I just might use them somewhere else. They don't match any of the dies, just so you know. So you'd have to fussy cut them out yourself. Okay, so now you see that there might be a little bit of white here and there. And so what you can do, and this is, I think, a little left over. Let's see. This is Mossy Meadow. Had one here that was Blackberry Bliss. Okay, so because this one was Blackberry Bliss, so I'm going to come back with my sponge dauber, and I'm just going to tip it a little bit to get rid of the white at the tips. On the edge. So just adds a little bit more color. And then you can add, you know, any colors you want to just kind of tip your leaves. So you can see how stunning these are. Just really, really pretty colors. Just really happy with this. So this will be another fun one to cut out. And again, I would just have to line up my die again, put it in my embossing. It's just when you do emboss first and add it, you're going to need to just repeat the embossing again, because otherwise you lose a little bit of that 3D character. So you want to make sure that your die is in place, and then you fit it into your embossing folder. So let me just show you again how this works. So you just You can see how it just stays in place. It just kind of snaps into place, and then it doesn't move. And so then I would need to line up everything to match so that it just kind of embosses it again in the same place. Let me go ahead and cut this out so you can see what I'm talking about. So this just needs to be moved a little bit because it needs to line up with what was already there. So I'm not changing where it was embossed before. Okay. So I've embossed it again, and you can see it's a little damp still. So pretty. And then we have these just really yummy little leaves. And they just are so pretty. And you can make them all just one color, or you can vary the colors at all, but I just love fall and the brilliant colors. So this is just a great way to kind of duplicate that. Now these are perfectly ready for my scrapbook page because they got the colors that I wanted that match the leaves in my pictures. Okay. All right, so let's put these aside and let's show you how to put together the card. Okay, so I'm using Very Vanilla. This is the thick cardstock, and I think they discontinued this, but they still have Very Vanilla. So, all right, so what I did is, this is obviously 4.5 or 4.25 by 5.5, and I cut this down to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 so that it just is a real subtle amount less. So I like an 1/8 inch difference when I cut out my cards because it just makes like a 16th inch edge around. And when you use the same color, there's just something really elegant about the card when it's in this really beautiful, very vanilla, but the embossing is so stunning. Really, really gorgeous. You can see how deep it is. It's so pretty. Okay. So now I use the big leaf for this one. And then, do you remember me telling you about the edges and everything? What I did is after I cut out what I wanted, so this one I would just die cut out and then I would emboss it. I can use my scraps to just continue to get more color in it. And then I can cut things like these. So these are just more of the dies that are in here. So there's this, and then this is some of the gold from the Mercury, the gold Mercury vellum. That beautiful. Just makes for really, really pretty gold accents. And so I'm going to use these 2 leaves that I made earlier, and then some that I made as well. Okay. So this is the 2023-25 in color jute trim, which is the fall colors, and it's the mauve and wild wheat, copper clay. But I'm using the copper clay because there's so many of the same colors. You know, they just kind of bleed and blend in together. And I just thought that it was a really pretty tie-in. So what I do is I take that thread or the trim, this jute trim, and what I do is I spin it the opposite way that it's been. Oh, thanks, Linda. I spin them the opposite way, and then I end up with 3 smaller pieces because I feel like this jute is just a little bit too big. So to make it a little less that you can get 3 strands out of one piece of trim. Okay, so to kind of organize these, I'm going to need to put some dimensionals on the back. Okay, so I kind of want it in the same design somewhat, but I'm using different leaves, okay? So I'm going to put this one here, and then the smaller oak leaf. I'm just going to put down here. So it kind of has the same design, but slightly different leaves, okay? Or maybe I can do it like so. Then it kind of gives it more of that look. Okay, so now for these, and some of these don't have the pieces out, but I went ahead and left that because I like how pretty it is. So I took this one and this leaf, and I'm just going to overlap them so that they kind of show the two together. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some mini dimensionals, and I'm going to adhere them together. And this is partly why I left some of the pieces so that and I could add a bigger one here. It holds them together, so that way they stay in place. So I want this one moved over just a smidge more. Okay, so I'm just going to place it about right here. All right, and then I'm just going to add little dimensionals to the backs of these little leaves. So I'm going to stick this one right here. And I'm just adding the little dimensional down here at the bottom. And I'm just going to tuck them under. And because I'm tucking it under, it doesn't matter if the dimensional shows. So you can see that the dimensional is bigger than my little sprig, but I'm just going to tuck it under so the dimensional is hiding underneath. And then same thing with this one. It makes everything 3D. It just pops up, which I think is really pretty. Okay, so this sprig as well. And then I can have these kind of pop out from below. So just going to stick them under here. All right, then we have this for the sentiment. This is a sentiment from the stamp set that says a little note to brighten your day. So this is not something that has to be, just for Thanksgiving, but you can also put thank you. And if you've got something that says thankful for you, I think that works as well. Okay, so I'm going to use the copper clay on this. And if you don't have copper clay, Cajun Craze works as well, because I think it's a very close color to copper clay. And then I'm just going to use one of the dies from I like these round corners. I just I've got the die dies here, or the list of the plates for the dies. I just want you to know that my desk over here that you can't see because it's off camera is so full of junk. Oh my goodness. I just need to find those die cut plates because I had them here. I was working on stuff before. I have no idea where I stuck it. That's what happens when you get really disorganized. I left it where I was working before. I had to use the larger Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Looks like I didn't cut everything. Okay. All right, so now I need it to go across here, but I would like this jute to go under here as well. So I'm just gonna put it into 3 loose loops, and then I want to spread it out a little bit. Okay, so it's not just all together. So you see how I just spread that out? So it just makes it into just a bunch of circles. And then I'm going to use some dimensionals to kind of hold the jute in place. And then it should just straddle what we have here. You can also use glue dots to hold your ribbon in place. I want to move these just a little bit. Let's wait till this is down. And then I can just tuck it under one corner. There we go. And because we have that mercury gold vellum, I don't really feel like it needs any embellishments. It's just so pretty all by itself. Isn't that gorgeous? All right, that's all I have for you today. Hopefully you enjoyed learning how to do some, you could also use this. I forgot to show this ribbon. This is the woven ribbon is online exclusive. And so this is an online exclusive item. So if you're looking for the changing leaves, you're not going to find it in a catalog. You need to look on online exclusives. So it's really, really beautiful. Lots of things that you can make with it. I've seen some really pretty samples online that have nothing to do with fall. So take a look at Pinterest or Google Changing Leaves Bundle, and you'll see some just gorgeous, gorgeous samples. All right. So if you're watching this later on YouTube, please click like and subscribe. Again, this is Angela with Wild Violets Art, and I loved having you today. Hopefully the rest of your Labor Day weekend goes well. I know it's just a few hours before bedtime, so enjoy your evening. Talk to you soon.